over the place? I keep hearing ding dongs.
I'm
Every time someone joins the meeting,
turning it
you're
off.
getting a bell.
It's off now.
Because I'm still alive, so.
Millie, Andre, we're looking for him. He's in the waiting room.
Or else an angel just got their wings.
That's what I think it was, Martha.
Ah, yeah. Andre.
All right, I got Andre.
Okay, thank you. Ken, I'm going to check the YouTube.
Okay.
It has like a 3/4 of an inch left to go.
I think Tracy's iPad is Tracy.
Yes, Frederick.
Welcome back, Millie.
Thank you.
Ken, I'm trying it again.
I believe you.
Amy, what's the policy on all of these iPhones, iPads that are in? Are we going to just not admit them, or are we admitting everybody regardless?
We have been letting people in.
Okay.
The problem we have is the bandwidth with the videos.
Yep, so I'm going to turn mine off. You guys have
No, I
seen
meant not yours, but that's just, but all the others. We will make an announcement that the bandwidth, we don't have the bandwidth to support all the video links for everybody. So people need to join up with the phones or watch YouTube.
Well, we cannot admit them, and just admit the folks on.
Do you have indication that it's either video or oral?
Yeah, you get a different icon if
Okay.
it's video or a phone.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of video and
You can
more
Use different
phone.
words. Video or by phone, Ken?
What?
Are you going to have group participation today?
There may be for some of the items in the middle of the agenda.
Okay.
The other is, can't you just mute their video and then turn it on and that saves the bandwidth, or is that not true?
Well, I think they're watching what's going on regardless of whether they're being participating. They have to run the video.
Oh, let me check. Hold on.
How's this, Ken? How about if when you get started, we'll admit all, and then you can make an announcement that we're going to be removing anyone who's coming in on video. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay, and then ask them to, and that way they'll be able to get in, realize that they need to phone in instead of just being not let into the meeting, period.
All right. And the Zoom access stuff is all in Quarkbase, right?
Yes, it is.
The YouTube is getting screwy.
It's not working. You want
Sorry.
me to call Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, I just emailed her right now. So,
Okay.
but yes, calling would be good. My phone is on the other side of the world.
Call Michelle Spiro.
She can just get in my computer.
Yep, I'll tell her. Hey, we're having trouble with the YouTube. Can you pop on? All right, thank you. Bye-bye. Or do you want to stay on? Okay. All right, I'm gonna go hand you to Amy, okay?
Yep, she's on.
You're on?
Michelle's on, yep.
Oh,
Okay, my phone is disabled right now, so I'm sorry. Thanks. Hi. It went? Look at my screen. You see it though? Okay, thank you. Awesome. Ken, go ahead. YouTube is on.
Okay.
hold on, let me bring everybody in.
About to.
Okay, Ken, everybody's in.
All right. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is in the Shoreham Town Council meeting for Wednesday, August 19th, 2020. The New Shoreham Town Council is meeting via telecommunications pursuant to State of Rhode Island Executive Order 2046, dated June 12th, 2020. We do not have the bandwidth to support a video link for members of the general public, so if you're joining in with video, please switch over to dial in or watch it on YouTube. The access for that dial in is available on ClerkBase. It'll start slowing down our YouTube link. So please join up with the dial in instead of using your video. First item on the agenda, and once you do, you will be turned off, so you need to dial in again. If you're on video, dial in again so you can join us again. First item on the agenda is Warden's report. Historically, I will make note that this is the 29th anniversary of Hurricane Bob. Our last major hurricane except for Sandy, that hit us and did quite a bit of damage out here, particularly in the harbor. And obviously I'm aware of that because I'm in the marine industry. As I recall, we had about 53 to 55 boats stacked up like cordwood around the perimeter of the Great Salt Pond. The mooring field was decimated. As I recall, I spent the entire storm as medical control for the north end of the island, just in case it got cut off. But there again, it represents the resiliency of the island. We came back, and a lot of hard work was done following that day, but we're still here. So and I think a lot of work has been done since then to build up and prevent any kind of major catastrophe going forward like that, or at least lessen the effects of it. So Andre, do you have anything for us, Warden's report tonight? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you, Ken. I do. It's just a short note. I'd like to recognize we've had, unfortunately, two old friends of Block Island pass on this week, Jimmy Peon and Stephen Marks, better known as Kahuna. They passed away this week, and I'm sure they'll be remembered for their contribution to the character of this island during better times. And they will be missed for their laughter and cheer that they brought to us and all those who knew them back in the day. So 3 cheers for Jimmy and Stephen these days, and that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Andre. The item on the next item on the agenda does have public input. I will note that We have been getting a lot of public input via telecommunications, the emails and letters that we've been receiving. And those are all posted on ClerkBase, I believe. Molly Fitzpatrick did post those on ClerkBase for all to review. And obviously the council's been reviewing them also. So we are getting the public input via telecommunications and social media and emails. So thank you for all your input. And like I said, be assured we are reading them all. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to move item number 1 down to the end of the meeting, as that item will be going into closed session.
Public input is next.
Hello?
Isn't public input next?
Yes, it is, but I did mention that we were having public input via the emails and whatnot we've been receiving.
So there's no public input as shown on this memo from the town about this. Okay.
No, there isn't. Not tonight. We understand that a lot of people are concerned, and we've read all their emails concerning the issues that are on the agenda for this evening.
I would like to respectfully say that you have not heard mine. I have not submitted anything. I thought the opportunity for public input would be as public input usually is. I have a question on agenda item 9, which is unclear on how it actually is going to process.
Okay.
And if it, with that answer to that question, I will either remain in this meeting.
Okay.
Or-
I could like the item number 9 is correspondence on receiving a report from interim town manager on the Cherry Hill Lane solar installation.
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Chris Warfel, and I would like to ask if this is going to be just receiving correspondence or if the town council will be discussing whatever is in correspondence from interim town manager Jim Kern.
Well, I anticipated discussing it, but it's not listed as an action item on this evening's agenda, Chris. But it is. I anticipate we'll be discussing and reviewing it.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Chris. As I said, I'd like to make a motion to move item number 1 down to the end of the agenda. That will be going into closed session as we are still in litigation with that.
Second.
Seconded by Andre. All those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Chris? You're recusing?
I'm recusing.
Okay, thank you. Sven?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
Thank you. I vote.
Ken,
Hold on, Chris. I vote in the affirmative. Motion does carry. Chris, go ahead.
just for clarification, I recuse because I actually have an outdoor entertainment license. My company does, so just for clarification for the public that's listening.
Okay, thank you. Motion does carry. So the item will be moved down to the end of the agenda after minutes. Next item on the agenda will be to discuss and take action to protect the public welfare with regard to the recent series of moped and other accidents culminating in a moped accident fatality and serious personal injury. The town's reduced ability to deal with such accidents and injuries because the number of town rescue personnel have been reduced because of COVID-19 crisis and the overwhelming of the town's medical resources and the overwhelming of the town's police force and resources. That is the agenda item for this evening. We've had some correspondence since the last meeting from at least one of the moped operators with some suggestions of policies that they might be interested in implementing. We've also had a number of accidents since the last meeting, one this afternoon. And the discussion is ongoing in terms of what can be done about the situation. Chris, do you have your hand up still, or are you putting it down?
I have it up.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Discussion specific to mopeds, I will also have to recuse until I have an ethics advisory, which probably won't happen till the beginning of September. I lease property from a moped operator. I did talk to the Ethics Commission today, and once I have that advisory, I will know the scope to which I can participate.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Chris.
Yep.
Sure. Understand, thank you. Someone like to start a conversation this evening? Andre?
Do you have a question for me, Ken?
No, I didn't know if you wanted to begin a conversation this evening. I was going to give you the opportunity.
Well, no, just as I echo your sentiments of everything that we, you said about the letters and
Yeah.
the write-ins and the accidents. And I'm hoping tonight that we can come to some sort of conclusion as to what we can do now to alleviate this problem that's on our roads.
Okay.
So, if anybody, I don't know if Sven was working on something or, Martha and I had our opinion on something, we had our differences in the meetings, but I don't know how you want to handle moving forward with that discussion.
Okay, all right. Sven, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So to be very clear, in the last few meetings, and first, I really want to thank everybody in the public for all the letters, and there have been, or emails, and there have been a significant number, as many people have said. We've all read them all, and take them to heart. And this is a really serious matter. There's no question. I think everybody, like I said at the last meeting, everybody is focused on health and island safety. In the same breath, I also, as I repeated, really want to make sure that there is what I call sticking power, and that changes that get made can actually be implemented and enforced. At the last meeting, somebody asked if we were afraid of a lawsuit. I don't think anybody's afraid of a lawsuit on this council. We've had our share. Martha may be the most, but we've all had our share. But what I do want to make sure is that what we move forward on, at least what I move forward on, can actually have sticking power and stay and be fully implemented so that we actually resolve or improve the health and safety. And having talked a lot with many people and also our solicitor, the one area that I really want to focus on is hours of operation. And in my opinion, I think that I would like to see a significant reduction in the hours of operation. As many people know right now, the mopeds have to be completed and done by 8 p.m. There's a 6 p.m. last rental. I would like to move that significantly earlier. And I guess the way I would love to move forward, Ken, is, I'll propose 5 p.m. as a shutdown time. We can definitely discuss that, but I would really like to then have a meeting on Wednesday or Monday, whenever we can have a meeting as soon as possible so that we can give proper notice, we can have a discussion or get the operators engaged should we need to, and make sure that we do this in the proper format. But the big thing I would really like to focus on right now is hours of operation, because I know we can have sticking power on that, and that it can be lasting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sven. In reference to that, first I would say I think we have indication that that Monday and Wednesday evenings are tied up in terms of meetings and Zoom already. So unless we were to do it during the day, we'd have to check with the clerk's office. Unless we were to do it during the day, we'd have to do it maybe Tuesday or Thursday.
Tuesday is fine with me.
I'm sorry, what?
Tuesday is fine with me.
Okay, well, we can decide that. Like I said, it's just being one of those nights. I will mention that I think I should have mentioned at the outright that, and I'm sure everyone knows by now, but that the State Police Colonel Jim Manning will be coming out Friday, and we'll be bringing out several troopers with him for the weekend, for this weekend, and for several weekends to come, to enhance the enforcement of traffic violations and traffic actions on the island. And I'm sure a lot of that will include moped operations. As I said, the idea is to clean up the act and get things in line with the way it should be in terms of operations and in terms of legalities and performance on the roads. That being said, Sven, I agree with you in terms of what the that which we can accomplish with a reasonable expectation of success is, and that's the limitation of hours for operations. And I would suggest that we do, as you indicated, we do indicate that that will be our discussion point on our next meeting. And I agree that short of any significant alteration in the activities of the operations, that is the best chance we have to alleviate some of the burden and some of the problems that we're having. I think you definitely are headed in the right direction. I would say that probably maybe even there may be some more reining in that we can do in terms of actual rental hours, and then in terms of when the vehicles are turned in. But I would certainly be looking forward to that. I'd also would suggest that we might consider perhaps opening up the dialogue. I know that Chief has done a great job with communicating with some of the moped renters with limited success. But I think that perhaps we might consider opening up a dialogue directly with one or two members of the council and the moped operators to try and have a better discussion of what is expected and what they can do to help with this situation and to alleviate it, other than the obvious, and that is to shut down completely. As you said, Sven, what we have control of and what we can do is what we should go for, and go for in a big way. So I would definitely support that. Sven Riesem.
Yeah, can I just add one more thing? And obviously I was just starting the discussion, so I'm sure it's going to go on. A second thing that I would like to do, and this is actually in direct response to a letter that I got and read today. I think that right now in the books, it is very clear that you need to rent, and it's very clear, you need to rent from the location and the property that you are licensed for. And I believe that that is not being adhered to by one operator. And either we remove that license or we enforce. And again, we can talk about that on Tuesday, but I think that's the second thing that I would want to do immediately. Just to put that out on the table as sort of the two things that I at least want to start discussing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sven. Jim Kern, are you on the line?
I am.
Jim, have you've had some communications along, or perhaps started following up on one of those issues. Can you enlighten us a little bit on that, where you might be, if possible?
That's correct, and as everybody appreciates, we've been rather involved in a number of different areas, and I just want to make sure with the town solicitor that the mechanics of the communication, but my expectation is that a communication will go out within the next 24 hours directing the operator that appears to not be renting from his property to do so. So I'm not going to wait till next week. It'll happen this week. Just want to make sure it's done correctly.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Sven Riesem again.
Sorry, I guess, again, up to the town solicitor maybe, or at least the council. I'd like to then have a quick discussion as to what enforcement is, because I'm not sure that actually one doesn't lose the license or penalized on the license. You know, wheeling the bikes back to the property, sure, that's great, but it's the third week in August, and I guess if we've been playing games, or they've been playing games, and I'm sorry to use that word, but that's the only way I can describe it. then I don't know what actions we can take, Jim, and I look forward to hearing from the solicitor and a good discussion, but I do think wheeling them back is not very, is not really enforcement, it's just correction. Thank you.
I have a question.
Martha, go ahead.
Do we have any information on how many accidents happen late in the day?
Yes, I believe we've had some indication of that. Tracy Fredericks, I see you're on. Do you have any, can you, or Kirk Littlefield, either of you?
I don't have exact, numbers, but it seems that they happen more in later afternoon, early evening. I mean, the mopeds don't really start hitting the roads until, late morning. So we don't really have as many early in the morning. It tends to be afternoon, early evening.
Okay, because I'm out of town usually by 5:30, so I obviously don't see that, and I wasn't sure if we were going after something that didn't exist. And I also, at tonight, I think the sun is setting at, 7 something or other. So they shouldn't be out. Some of this is going to be tied to sunset. 7:38, the sun is setting tonight.
Well, we certainly don't have to rely on that. We can certainly tie it to a different hour than that. But you're right, Martha, there certainly is, that is a concern. Andre, did you want to weigh in?
Just that, I'll reiterate what we said the other night, and this is where we were. This is where we were for 3 hours the other night. That I think, given the COVID, given the pressures that we have, given the amount of accidents, given the pressures that are on our road, I think I'm willing to take the chance to do more on this. One of the moped operators sent us a letter that actually does go a little further than that. I don't believe switching up hours now. Switching up the hours certainly leaves the opportunity to still get all those mopeds on the road. So I don't see how the hours would help, except for the later hours. And I believe the letter from Mr. Leone says that, they'll stop 4 to 6 rentals. So
They'll stop the specials. They'll stop the special pricing.
okay, so I think if we're going to talk about this, I think what we need to do is delve into our own general ordinances that are already on the books, as Sven mentioned, and the letter from Johnny Leone. I think that if we're going to discuss anything meaningful this evening, I think we have to take into consideration of the offers in front of us. But I feel as though what we need is a comprehensive safety measures put into place. And under our emergency ordinance, we've called this as an emergency as an emergency meeting, just to go through and maybe adjust our ordinances for the health and safety of the public. So that's why we're here. I think we could go through that whole ordinance right now and suggest changes to it. But right now, barring that, these long-term, there's a lot of long-term issues here that we need to deal with. And I'd like to focus on what we can actually accomplish here this evening. But I'm not convinced the hours are the way to go. I think we can do a lot more, and I'd like to actually discuss what we can actually do, including what Mr. Leone put forward to us.
That's fine. If you'd like to open up one of the topics, one of the subjects, feel free to go ahead. I will point out that they have the problem. Part of the problem we have is that the five moped operations, and 3 of which are acting in conjunction, and the other 2 are not necessarily. I know that 3 of them have been instituted the wristband idea already. They're issuing those. And then the idea being that if they get trained on the moped and they're given a wristband to put on and wear that, then if they stop somewhere and the rider in the back wants to drive, they're not allowed to because they haven't been sufficiently trained. And also the idea of bars and restaurants don't know who is actually operating a moped because they have the wristband on. And it is suggested, and many have indicated that they would not be serving those individuals. They do have the wristbands on. The other, but however, I believe Mr. Fenimore's operation is not bought into that. It's not tied into that. So that's somewhat limiting. And like I said, the specials, the 4 to 6 p.m. specials, that's a pricing issue that they've agreed to eliminate. So that they anticipate that might spread the moped rentals out more during the day. And I think if you have, I mean, the idea with the hours, Andre, is that if you have the mopeds going out for a certain number of hours a day, if you curtail some of those hours, and the mopeds are not going to be on the road, you're eliminating the mopeds, from the road in certain hours of the day by curtailing the hours. So that was the idea that is something that we can do by right. As far as the other things go, we can certainly take those up as whichever one you'd like to. I'm sorry. One more thing. I've also indicated that their offer of a private ambulance service to help out. I don't think that's what we want, because and I've talked to Dr. Workup about this, and we'd rather not have to have a private ambulance necessary. We'd rather have fewer accidents and fewer casualties. So I think that following Dr. Workup's lead, I've sort of told him that that I don't think we're interested in that. So
I'm sorry if I don't want to interrupt you at the
I've
time.
got a question.
hold on, Martha. Go ahead, Andre.
Martha, excuse me for 1 second. I'm just wondering, Ken has Johnny's letter in front of him, if he could read it, because I don't think a lot of people have it with those suggestions in it. If you want me to do it.
Sure, I've got the latest one. Martha, did you have a quick question before you do that?
Well, it might not be that quick. It's a question that folds into another item on the agenda, which is the emergency ordinance. And my question is, in the spring, we were consistently told over and over that we could be more restrictive than the state. And one of the things among the licenses that were held back were moped licenses. And we have gone through this summer and we have found that we have a rescue squad that's down, that even with DMAT, the rescue squad is still down in numbers. The accidents are holding steady. And we clearly, by every indication we've had from the members of from the leadership of the rescue squad, the numbers of their squad are down because of COVID. This isn't, I feel like we're talking as if this doesn't exist anymore. We've been extraordinarily lucky out here to keep the numbers as low as we have. It's been taking a lot of work. It's taken a lot of vigilance. But I don't understand why we can't drop this number down to, this is a temporary measure until the end of the season, to, for example, 25 per owner instead of 34, when we were able under the emergency ordinance in the spring to hold the license. And I don't see the difference. I don't understand it.
Well, for one thing, the licenses weren't issued, so we had them in hand. The licenses have been issued. For another thing, as you recall, a lot of things in the state were shut down. The ferries were cut back, and you're right, we did have all kinds of, we had shut down almost the entire island. So there was virtually nobody coming over to the island at that time. So it really, the operators really weren't missing anything because nobody was coming over one way or the other. At this point in time, they do have their licenses in hand. People are coming over. It is the middle of the summer. And obviously anything that we would do along those lines would be immediately challenged. If you'd like, I'll read the letter at this point. This is from John Leone. Dear members of the council, thank you for the continued dialogue. Thank you for the continued dialogue to safeguard the community and visitors. As discussed, we're very concerned about the amount of alcohol consumption this summer, lack of transportation and pedestrian infrastructure, and shortage of local police. We hope our community will work together to alleviate the issues which undoubtedly affect us all. We've requested all moped accident reports from the police department. There have been 38 rental moped accidents this year, and not a significant difference from prior years. Importantly, the number of rental moped accidents are trending down from July to August. 2 in May, 6 in June, 23 in July, 7 in August. While inexact, we estimate each moped is rented once per day in June, August to 19th, that is rented once per day in June to August. And that is an accident rate of 0.26% of all rentals. Nevertheless, we can always be better and stand ready to work with the council to implement smart policies. And then he has bullet points that he's suggesting. The first one is the moped operators remain willing to fund a private ambulance service on busy weekends and holidays. This is intended to supplement all and be under the control of the existing fire and rescue operations. Please let us know if you'd like us to implement this plan. Second bullet point, the moped operators will cease operations at 7 p.m. Third, we will continue to fund under the direction of chief of police, the security guards to stop moped riders from going up High Street, to patrol and take the keys away from riders that do not follow the rules of the road. Next, we have instituted a wristband system to identify authorized drivers. As I mentioned, just as a side note, this wristband system is only being used by 3 of the operators, not all 5. He continues, this will empower law enforcement to stop unauthorized operators, and also so that bars and restaurants do not serve alcohol to them. As we've discussed, alcohol service to individuals that have already rented a moped has become a significant issue that we must resolve. This season is unlike any other we've experienced with this issue. Next bullet point is we've eliminated our 4 to 6 p.m. specials so that our moped rentals are more spread throughout the day. Next, we want to work with the town to reinstitute the Moped Safety Committee and broaden its charge to include all pedestrian, bicycle, and moped traffic safety issues. We believe that a well-thought, long-term traffic plan will go a long way to alleviate the congestion we all face in the summer months. Finally, we would like the town to enact an ordinance requiring helmets for all private bicycles and mopeds. Thank you for your time and consideration. Respectfully yours, John Leone. And I will note, as I said, that we have had some statistics given to us by the fire chief that may or may not coincide with the statistics that John is presenting here. Kirk, you don't happen to have those statistics with you this evening, do you, Kirk Littlefield? Or Tracy? Kirk?
Yeah, I just got to pull them out.
Okay.
Didn't I fax them to you or send them to you in email also?
Yeah, but I don't have them in front of me right now. I can't pull them up my computer because I'm using my computer for this. Does anyone else in the council have them in front of them?
The problem is, Kirk, we've gotten so many emails that unless you've got the time, it's almost impossible to find it.
I will,
And I apologize for that, but it's just the way things have been happening.
I sent,
Ken, may I?
Go ahead, Andre.
Thank you. While those are getting found, so can you explain to the public who Johnny is? I'm sorry, that didn't come through.
Oh, sure, John Leone. I'm sorry. John Leone is the manager direct manager for Harbor, Old Harbor Bike Shop. And he also, I believe he's related to the two other operations. One of his sons runs Willis Brown's operation, and obviously the family runs Aldo's Mopeds on Walden's Way.
So who's the license holder on Old Harbor Bike Shop?
Licensee for Old Harbor Bike Shop, I believe, is the Flippy family.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, I have the stats if you want me to read them, unless Kirk has them.
yeah, I have them.
What?
Hold on, Martha. Kirk, do you have them?
Yeah, which ones were you looking for again?
Well, the ones for these summer
Oh, I
months.
got it.
For this year?
Sure. Yes.
In 2020, June, let's see, we had 4 in June, 35 in July, and now that was 6 to that date. We've had a couple more since then.
In August.
Yes, in August.
Okay. And these, can you be specific about where you're getting these numbers from?
Between the dispatch calls that the sheets that they write down when the ambulance is sent out on a rescue call and the calls that have been entered into the system that their EMTs report to.
Okay. There was some discrepancy about the numbers that John was representing in these. I just want to be clear why we're getting those. Thank you, Kirk. Sven Reeson?
Yeah, just building on Kirk, and he and Kate did a great job with the numbers too. So that was basically 44 as of about a week ago. The year before that was 34, and the year before that was 46. So based on Kirk's numbers, up from last year, but in line sort of with the 2018 number so far. But so it'll go higher, maybe 15% higher.
No, 2018 was the year, was the whole year, wasn't it?
Yes,
sorry,
both of
All
those.
these, the numbers were all from Memorial Day to Labor Day, except for this year. And the medical center I know has quite a few walk-ins and aren't reflected in this also.
Okay. Thank you, Kirk. Andre, go ahead.
Ken, I'm going to read the letter that we got from the Respect BI Coalition that's having the meeting tomorrow night. I think it's important for the public to know what those proposals are, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. So pretty much, the Respect BI Coalition is looking to raise the minimum rental age to 25. The data and the percentage of the accidents whose drivers under 25 support this motion. And she suggests, the group suggests that, as Sven suggests, to pull the operator licenses for violating the current town operator agreement by using 2 rental properties. This would take 34 mopeds off the road immediately. Number 3 is when a moped driver is wearing a green bracelet currently supplied by the operators, they cannot be served or sold alcohol by any town establishment. Establishment should be fined a large sum if found breaking the rule. Permis Leone submitted suggestions to the town council, immediately require helmets for all private moped owners. Renters get confused and emboldened to remove helmets when they see private drivers without them. Number 5, per John Leone submitted suggestions to the town council, cancel moped rental rate specials between 4 to 6 immediately. And in number 6 would be enforce the rule in latest town moped agreement that all rental bikes prominently display stickers on the left and right handlebars. On 1, dirt road ban fine, 2, notice of beeping fine, and right now only Island Moped may be doing this. I don't have personal proof. I don't have personal knowledge of that, but I'm just reading a letter that's been sent to me. And stickers could be printed and applied before this weekend. So that's the note from Sarah Bacon this afternoon, what they're looking for. I don't think these are unreasonable. I think, I do agree that part of this problem is an enforcement issue. So I think, with shoes and whatnot, I think we could also put police officers at the end of Weldon's Way, and anybody who tries to drive off of Weldon's Way without sneakers on gets turned around and sent back. But I do think that, if we're going to discuss this, and I also support Martha's motion of a reduction in the mopeds by 10 apiece. That would remove 50 mopeds from the island, and we have all the data we need that tells how busy we are this summer and how congested our roads are. We also have it in the power of the town to reclaim Weldon's Way. Nobody has permission to do that. It's just been allowed to do it. It's just been allowed to happen. So, not having training areas, I don't think to remove a public way from, because it's a training area, that's the public way. I don't think it's our problem. We shouldn't be allowing that. So these things we can do, but above everything else, I do support Martha's idea of reducing the amount of mopeds that are on the roads currently. And that's where I stand on things right now. I would like to go into the ordinance and go through the moped ordinance and see what we can do there to better shore that up with these suggestions, some of these suggestions that we have. Ours are not going to do anything at this point. I think we have the power under the emergency ordinance. I'm willing to take the chance with that.
Thank you, Andre. Catherine Marola, are you listening?
Am I unmuted now?
Now you are, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Thank you. I was gonna, to Andre's point, and Martha's suggestion about reducing the number of mopeds by 10, I believe she said. Do we
No,
have,
excuse me, I said 9.
I'm sorry, 9.
I said 225 only because 25 is an easier number. It's 34 now, and nobody seems to be sure what that number is. For some reason, multiples of 5 are easy to remember.
Okay, thank you, Martha. So back to the original question, Councilor Marola, is it within our power at this point in time, given the settlement agreement and the status, to reduce the number of the mopeds?
There are certain serious issues involving the power of the council with regard to the settlement agreement. If that is going to happen, I think we need to do an agenda for as soon as possible to discuss that.
Okay. The other items that were discussed, that were suggested, some of those, as I mentioned, some of those, and Andre, as you mentioned, these were based on, some of them, it was based on the letter from John Leone, some of them were, and I noticed that some of those have been pulled back. That is to say, I think originally we had talked about the 25-year-old after a certain hour of the day, but that has been pulled back. I did have a conversation with Mr. Leone this afternoon, and we did have a preliminary indication from him that he might be interested in pursuing some sort of a change in the operations to get the training off of Weldon's Way. But obviously it would have to be more than just himself, that we'd have to get Mr. Fenimore to be involved also, because the 2 operations are operating, actually there's 3 operations operating there on Weldon's Way. So, but that is certainly something that should be pursued, as you've indicated. As far as the other items that you mentioned, I guess the question would be those which we can actually enforce. Let's see.
Ken,
Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
it's Tom Workup.
Workup, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm trying to look at paper and look at the screen at the same time. So
No problem. I just wanted to add it on to Kirk's numbers because some of the ones that we get are walking up or come from private vehicles. So as of today, we had our 55th moped accident, and right now we're at 11 fly-offs. That would be including rapid, fixed wing, and also ferry transfer because of the inability to fly. We've had 11 transfers to trauma centers out of those 55 that have reported to the medical center. That's through our electronic health record. And one of the discrepancies is the way you worded the comment from Mr. Leone was police traffic reports. I think we've mentioned before that not everyone gets a traffic report, but the ones that we've seen here, it's the 55th one today with 11 total transfers off the island to go to trauma centers. And I would say that I ask many of the accident victims how their just-in-time training had gone. And interesting enough, today was a legal professional, and he basically said it wasn't much of a training, and maybe there's some exploration of what are the safety guidelines that are being trained on to see if we can improve that, as well as any other mechanisms that you have available to you.
Thank you, Dr. Workup.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. So that basically says to me that untrained people are going on the roads, and this is really what the elephant in the room has been on this whole thing. So again, I mean, we're here to discuss the health and safety of our town because we're here to open this up as an emergency. And to me, nothing speaks louder and clearer than that information. I don't know how you guys, I mean, let me rephrase that. I understand how you guys are stuck on hours, but I don't agree strongly don't agree. I think we can go further than this. I'm willing to go further than this. Martha's willing to go further than this. And I mean, I think if the two of you are not willing to budge on the hours, we could be here all night going back and forth. I think Martha and I have our positions, and you as well. And it seems to be we're at a crossroads here. And I'd like to be able to get beyond it, but
Well, let me simply add that I very much appreciate the effort that John Leone has made. I think it's a big step in the right direction. And I think it's a long-term step. I think that what we have right now is a temporary situation. Something has to be done between now and we don't know when the end of the summer is going to be. We have no idea. We don't know what's going on with schools. We don't know what's going on with people going back to work. We assume what the weather's going to be like. We don't have any idea. We had people out today, and granted, the forecast did throw a lot of people. And I did talk to somebody this afternoon who said they went out in a moped and it started to rain. They went back and they said I didn't ask who the dealer was, but they said the dealer was very gracious about not charging them for the whole time they were out because they had the sense to come back out of the rain. But that's another thing. It doesn't take. It's not. You don't have to be a traffic engineer to know that a two-wheeled vehicle, which people are not familiar, is a danger on roads with which they are not familiar. This is not. I don't really understand why we have to have all this scientific data to prove what we see with our own eyes every day. This is just beyond me. And again, I go back to the same question I had before. We had this authority in the spring. I don't understand how it's just evaporated. And I don't believe it has evaporated. I believe this is health and safety. I believe it is immediately tied to COVID because that is what has happened to our rescue squad. And we don't want to endanger the people we have out here. We don't know who is, who's not a carrier, asymptomatic, whatever. And we are, and I think the whole quality of life thing is impossible to quantify, and I don't even want to talk about that. But I do think the actual accident rate is bad. I very much appreciate getting the numbers from the medical center because those are the ones that count. And that's so clearly we're ahead of other years. And that's not really a great thing to be looking to achieve, being ahead in moped accidents.
Jim Kern?
Take us to
I think when we were using Kirk's numbers, Kirk was using, as he identified and as Dr. Workup identified, police reports. Medical center, as Tom Workup identified, they deal with people that maybe did not receive a police report. But it sounded to me like we shifted numbers. So at the point where we're having a conversation and providing these kind of numbers to the town solicitor for her to use, I think I was going to ask the medical center if they could provide or go back and put together some things, and I'll ask this separately of them, but break down across their data with respect to time of day, but also so we're using medical center data from whatever years they have, but we'll say 18, 19, and 20. Because I think it makes a more compelling case. The more dramatic the numbers are, because I do think that kind of data, as much as we all can see with our own eyes what's going on, I think that kind of data is what's going to be germane in any kind of oppositional discussion with a decision to be made by whether an action taken by the council is valid under the original settlement agreement or the moped ordinance, which derives its power from the state statute, or the emergency ordinance.
Thank you, Jim. Sven Reeson?
Yeah, a couple of things. And Martha actually mentioned this many meetings ago. Dr. Warcup's numbers were very, very valuable because those people that are walk-ins may not call him the rescue squad, but they walked in with something, abrasion, etc. So I think to everybody's agreement, those are the best numbers. Kirk's numbers and Tracy's numbers are critical, but the walk-ins, as Martha mentioned a while ago. So I want to make sure it's very clear. I don't think it's an either or here, and I don't think anybody's trying to push necessarily for one thing, except in my mind, it's the sticking power. And I think everybody understands what I mean by that. And I also believe, or I think that I hope Andre and Martha or all of us would want to reduce hours and would want to enforce the location. Then the question is, can we get more? So Ken, what I've heard, and I think a path forward is I've heard reducing the number, Martha mentioned 25. So reducing the number of mopeds is one big idea. Age limit to 25, another big idea. Hours is another big idea. Stickers, I think that's actually a really big idea that the group mentioned. And location. And I think those 5 things, I would love to meet as soon as possible and have the solicitor help us understand how they do or don't fit within all the ordinances, state statutes, grand jury statutes, and get an opinion from her. And then we decide going in. Those seems to be the 5 things. The other one is training. And I think all of us agree that the training is a significant issue. As I called the chief the other day, somebody almost hit my car as they came out of Weldon's Way. And, it was very clear that they had not had enough training. So I don't know how to touch the training one right now, because that seems to be almost a relationship and a negotiation between us versus a mandate, but maybe it is a mandate. And I think that's the last thing, the 6th thing that I would like the opinion on from the solicitor is, is training a mandate, or is that something that we work with them, or how do we proceed on that? So I think we would all love, or at least I'll speak for myself, we would all love all 6 of these things. Again, reducing numbers, age, hours, stickers, location, and training to be changed. The question is, can they stick? And so I'd love to meet as soon as we can with a solicitor with those 6 things in mind, and let's hear back. If they all stick, great. If some stick, let's go for it. That's my thinking.
Tracy, Frederick,
I need,
hold on, Martha, please. Tracy.
I just wanted to add another thing that we've been discussing for several weeks now, including everything you just mentioned, Sven, is also reducing the number of people on a moped to 1 person, because that seems to be another definite issue.
Yeah, Tracy, I brought that up. I brought that up several times. I broached that several times without any success on that. I've tried to press that point. Martha, I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, I don't remember that point being dismissed at all.
No.
And in any respect, and any more than any other point was dismissed. They've all been dismissed, and they've all been dismissed out of hand by our solicitor, and we are the council. I do think it's a word that we have been using, and it's a word that we have been using since this all began, and it is the wrong word. We should not be talking about training. People should not be getting off that boat, going to a dealer and being trained to run a moped. That's absolutely ludicrous. If you give it even this, it should be a matter of testing. If they can ride a moped, they can rent a moped, but you cannot train somebody to ride an unfamiliar vehicle on unfamiliar ground on twisty, narrow roads in however minutes it is they allow it. That is the definition of insanity. I'm not really sure why that didn't hit me sooner, that we're simply using the wrong word and we're talking about the wrong process.
Andre, go ahead.
Just to address Sven, to kind of bolster what Martha's saying, we've had Kathy's opinion the past two meetings. We know what Kathy's going to tell us. Kathy's going to tell you that we can only adjust the hours. I think we can do more, and I'm willing to do the battle to get there.
Well, then make a motion.
Well, there's so many things. I mean, do you want to put that, do you want to go through the,
You're talking about the ultimate solution, so go ahead and make a motion for the ultimate solution.
well, I think we
Well,
need
if
to,
you're talking about, Andre,
yeah, go ahead.
if you're talking about a motion specific to a temporary reduction of numbers under COVID, that comes under the emergency ordinance, does it not?
It does. That's what would have been a question earlier that I was going to ask, but right now, right now we can discuss our ordinance, amending any of that if we want to go into that right now with the ages and such.
But we can't amend our moped ordinance without having it properly noticed.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
Then go ahead.
Now, that was in part why I think I wanted to have the meeting where we could properly notify, have it documented. I'm with you, Andre, on the speed, the time. Maybe we do, and maybe we don't know what the solicitor is going to say, but I was hoping that we could have a meeting. I was thinking Monday, but Tuesday, if that's the soonest, or even this week. I'm very happy to do it Friday or whatever the time, Saturday. So I want to do it as soon as possible. My hope was to properly notify, make sure it's documented correctly. And I guess I would like to hear from the solicitor, but maybe we know the answer, or you may know the answer, but
well, you were at the meetings the other night, she told us what we could do. She did. She told us what we could do. She just told us again in this meeting.
yes, I don't know that. And I do think I appreciate Tracy adding in the number of people on the moped. That didn't come up tonight, but we have talked about that in the past. And I do think that is a big idea. And it was brought up the other night. So thank you, Tracy.
Anyone like to make a motion?
Not.
I'm like, no, not under this item. No,
I'm sorry?
it would be under item 4. It would not be under item 2.
Okay.
What I prepared to make.
Okay. All right. Sven, do you have your hand up again?
Sorry, no.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then we'll move on towards item 4 then. Next item on the agenda is to receive and act on motor vehicle for hire regulations.
I'm recusing.
Okay, Martha's recusing. Chris, you're back?
I am.
Okay, cool. Welcome back. We have a memo dated July 27th from the Commission on Motor Vehicle for Hires with proposed motor vehicle for hire regulations. We have a draft regulations for the Town of New Shoreham Motor Vehicles for Hire Commission with several proposals. The Motor Vehicle for Hires Commission has been working with taxi owners, chauffeurs, and town attorney for several years to develop a set of motor vehicle for hire regulations for town council approval. The first step was achieved on July 15th when the council approved the amendments to the town ordinance that, among other things, allowed the Motor Vehicle for Hire Commission to impose fines for violations of the regulations. The Motor Vehicle for Hire Commission respectfully requests the town council continue with the second step of this process, specifically to vote to adopt the draft regulations approved by the commission on June 17th, 2020. Please consider the following at your August 3rd meeting. Well, it's obviously later than that, but we do have the proposals from them. And is anyone here this evening with us from the Motor Vehicle for Hire Commission? Brad Martins, are you there?
He is on.
Okay. All right. Brad, if you need to unmute, you can push *6 to unmute yourself.
Does that work?
There you go.
Does that work?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
And then when you're finished speaking, you can *6 again, and that'll mute you. And if you'd want to raise your hand, you can do *9. So
Okay.
Brad, we have the draft regulations before us. Did you want us to add anything to what where we are with it?
Well, I mean, you kind of synopsized it there, Ken. This is something we've been working on for almost as long as I've been on the commission, which is a lot of years. And under the advice of our legal counsel, which actually goes over a number of different people, I believe, we've had ordinances for a long time, but no regulations to go with it. And we've been advised that we need to have regulations that back up the ordinances. And that's what you have in front of us. But also at the same time, the goal was to simplify it because, there were no definite regulations that had fines or penalties on it specific. It was ran the whole gamut up to and could be in this. So we decided to make it simple and put a set penalty on it, and to simplify the whole process. And we put together something that we worked hand in hand with our legal counsel, and that's what you have in front of us right now. We can go over it, or I think you guys have copies of it as well.
Yes, we do, Brad. Brad, have these proposed regulations been aired out at public meetings?
Yes, they have.
Okay. Kathy Marola, the process tonight, we have the regulations in front of us. I know it's advertised to receive and act on the motor vehicle for hire regulations. Is that what we can do this evening in terms of voting these into effect?
Yes, you can.
Great, thank you. Anyone on the council have any questions about these, or a specific item in?
No, just that I want to thank Kathy and the Taxi Commission for coming up with that. I know that they've put a lot of work into it together, and I'm glad we're hearing this, and I don't see anything wrong with any of this.
Okay, I don't have the voice to read the whole thing, but it does, the different points on the regulations cover the purpose and definitions, rates to be displayed, passenger destinations, sanitary conditions, driver attire, pets in the cabs, children, multiple fares, fines for violations of ordinance prohibition, fines for violations of the ordinance, procedures for filing complaints to the commission, and incorporation by reference. Any further questions from the council? Chris Willie, go ahead.
It's a question for Brad. I know, I think he brought it up or explained this to us once before, but the enforcement of these regulations, or what's the procedure for people that are in violation? Procedurally, how does this work, Brad?
Procedurally, what's going to happen is, the motor vehicle for hire is only an advisory committee. So we make a recommendation that goes to you, the town council. So if anyone has a disagreement with if we impose a penalty, the penalty is not there until the town council agrees with it. But we got a set procedure in place now for filing a complaint with the commission. And once that's done and we hold a hearing, if a penalty is found to be justified, we would put that forth, but it would still have to go to the town council. And at that point, you guys or the person that the complaint is against would have to either disagree with it and tell you why, or you would agree with it and agree with the penalty if that's what is required.
Thank you, Brad.
Any further comments or questions from the council?
Ken, may I?
Andre, go ahead.
Yeah, I almost forgot about this, but our wonderful clerk, Karen Leroy, who has served on the clerk of the Taxi Commission, and many others, and helped us out in town hall. Will be leaving in September. So we'd like to thank her also for her effort and time in this.
Good point. Thank you.
I would like to second that as well, Andre. She's worked very hard. She's been a loyal worker for all of us. And as you know, this is a totally volunteer commission, and she's done a lot of work for us. We all appreciate that truly.
Thanks, Brad.
All right. I'll make a motion to adopt the regulations of the town of Neshoreham for motor vehicles for hire, as presented by the commission in their memo this evening.
Second.
Seconded by Andre. Any further discussion? All is in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
Martha?
Oh, she can't,
She can't vote.
She's recused. I apologize. I vote in the affirmative. Motion carries 4-0 with one recusal. Thank you, Brad. Thank the commission for their hard work, and we look forward to having these implemented.
Thank you very much. We all appreciate it.
Thank you, Brad.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss and act on possible amendment to the emergency ordinance 2 of the town of Neshoreham adopted May 27, 2020, pertaining to communal housing and other issues during the COVID-19 pandemic. This and the next item have been put on our agendas since back when, as placeholders. I don't know if this is where you want to have a discussion, Martha or Andre, or have a motion.
Well, first of all, we need a motion to open up the ordinance, which, and the language of that I unfortunately do not have in front of me. Millie, do you have anything? It's boilerplate language. I just don't happen to have it.
No, I don't have it in front of me, Martha, but I can do some research. But perhaps Kathy can help out with that as well. Solicitor Marola.
Are you looking for the language under the charter about suspending the process for amending town ordinances?
The language we have used in the past for the emergency ordinance.
Okay, I'll pull that.
That was 409B, wasn't it? Suspending 409B.
Correct. I just have to get to that document
Yeah.
so that I can give you the exact language. Okay. 409, let's see, that is 409B of the charter, which provides in the event of an emergency wherein the town council must enact an appropriate ordinance or ordinances, the council may suspend the provisions of subsection A of this section by unanimous vote of the council. Only action by ordinance clearly essential to deal with the emergency shall be taken under such suspension. An emergency shall be defined as a situation where the public health, safety, and/or general welfare of the town is imminently imperiled by an unusual or unforeseen circumstance.
So the motion would be in order to suspend section 409A, I believe.
So
correct.
All right. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second.
Seconded by Andre. All those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative. Motion carries unanimously. Sven Riesen?
Ken, or maybe as we get into this and we can go through, and I think we all know where this is going in sense of the discussion. I'd love to hear a point of view from the solicitor about, I'm going to use the word proper notification, or how this works in the sense of timing to alert people. Obviously, we can make it under the ordinance as we just allowed. But if we are to make changes, is there any opinion from the solicitor about timing and how this works?
Yes. the preference would be to have the specific changes to the ordinance noticed in a meeting that would be convened as soon as possible on an agenda item.
So does that mean that we would actually vote on the item, or we would agree to place the items on an agenda, which would have that proper notice?
Yes, you could vote to place it on an agenda as soon as possible.
Under the under the emergency ordinance, would that be 48 hours or would it be less?
Yeah, 48 hours.
Okay, all right.
I have a question.
Chris Willie.
So I'm perfectly clear, whatever changes to our emergency ordinance are made, we have to give notice for 48 hours before they are approved. Is that what was just said?
Yes, if there's going to be a specific change in the current situation, 48 hours would be appropriate in terms of notice. And as Sven referred to, sticking.
Or let me just make sure, Kathy, because Chris said something a little different. I think it's a really good point. So is it 48 hour, or is it notice to have an agenda and a meeting where these items will be basically identification of items to go on an agenda upcoming? Or Chris just said, is it vote on the items that will take effect in 48 hours? Did I capture that right, Chris?
No, as I understood it, if any changes that are made to an emergency ordinance, and this is why I want to be very clear, because I don't think we've been consistent since we had this emergency ordinance. As I understand it, if this group wants to make changes to the emergency ordinance, we have to discuss those changes. And Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong. Discuss those changes and agenda them for approval 48 hours from now.
That would be the best way legally to do it.
So if it's not done that way, it's not the best way to do it legally.
There might be issues.
All right.
Thank you.
Discussion? Martha?
Okay, I will go back to the only item that I want to talk about under the emergency ordinance is the limitation to the 48 hours. I'm sorry, the limitation to the number of mopeds being rented by each dealer, because I feel all of the other items are longer term. And this is a temporary, would be a temporary reduction until the end of the season. And whatever happens after that, it's a whole different ballgame. But this is not a motion that is a long-term change to the ordinance. This is a specific reaction to an emergency circumstance in our town. I don't believe the other items are emergency circumstance items. I think they are long-term. Obviously, the moped, most of those, I think, if not all of them, the dealers right now could put in place. And I thought every one of them was supposed to have a tag that said, the horn is not a toy. There's very specific language in the license motion.
Yeah,
Going back to something a while ago. That's not a new idea. That's in the motion.
No,
If I can interrupt.
I'm sorry. Hold on. It's actually in the renewed agreement, Martha. You're correct.
Exactly.
Thank you, Chris. Go ahead.
I'll recuse at this point if you're going to discuss mopeds.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Councilor Willie.
Andre?
Oh, I was just thanking Chris for his previous input.
Okay.
I hear Martha. I think reducing the number would have an impact. I also do think hours, because as we've heard, the afternoons have been an area of accidents, have been an area of issue. So I hear Martha. I also think hours is is a topic. And I know a lot of people in their letters have talked about age. So I do think, and even reducing the number of people on the moped but I think age and hours and reducing the number are all quick impact items.
Okay.
And just to reiterate just to make sure that what we're doing is, or what I believe we're doing per Chris's comments just now, and solicitor's comments, is we're going to agendaize items for discussion at the next meeting that's going to be 48 hours or more. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. The soonest, obviously, the soonest we'd have to give 48 hours notice. So we'd be looking at, I think, rather than do it late at night on Friday, and I don't know if anyone wants to do it on Saturday or Sunday, but the next available day might be during the day on Monday in the afternoon, early afternoon, perhaps. Anyone could do that.
I can.
Andre, Martha?
Yes, that's as soon as I can.
Well, we can, I mean, if you want to do it on the weekend, we can certainly do that.
No,
If
that's not practical. I mean, I
agree with Martha.
I don't understand this. I don't understand why under the emergency, it's not considered an emergency. We have spent years listening to, well, no one's ever died. And now we're listening to, well, we've only had one person die. This is just lunacy. If you all want to do it that way, have at it. I'll go along with it. I don't want to do 48 hours or more and then get to that point and be told, oh no, you can't do this. I don't want to delay this for the sake of being once more told, oh, you can't do this because blah, 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 blah. When we're talking about a health crisis in this nation, in this state, thank you, God, not yet in this town.
Martha, we have an opinion for solicitor. If you feel that you want to make a motion to any, that's different. You're perfectly willing to, you can go ahead and do that.
It's not going to pass.
Sven, go ahead.
I'll make a motion, and I'm sure there are going to be others, to put it on the agenda for the next meeting to reduce the hours of operation to end at 5 p.m. Through the rest of the season.
Ken?
That means bikes back 5 p.m., not 8 p.m.
Catherine, point of order.
Yes, point of order. We do not, we can work on the agenda language. It does not need to be that specific. We want to leave the council flexibility. So I will work with the clerk and prepare an agenda that will encompass all of the ideas that we've heard tonight. I don't want to lock the council out of something.
Thank you. I'll withdraw what I just said.
Okay, Sven, thank you. Martha or Andre? Did you want to make a motion at this time?
I'll make a motion that we reduce the amount of moped licenses from each vendor from 34 to 25. Effective in 48 hours under the health and safety, for the auspices of health and safety for my community. And all the other reasons you've heard, our EMA, the mental health issues of our EMA, our residents, the quality of life of our residents, but that is my motion.
Motion is
And
made.
I will second.
Motion is made by Sven.
It's been made by Andre.
I'm sorry,
Andre. I'll second that motion, and I would also cite that there have been 55 accidents to date this year per the numbers supplied by the medical center.
Martha seconds the motion with qualification in terms of the hours, in terms of the number of accidents supplied by the medical center. Discussion? Sven?
I'm just trying to make sure I caught Andre's words. So could you either repeat it or just help me? Are you
Yeah,
ask-
his motion was to reduce the number of mopeds within 48 hours from 34 to 25. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct? Hello?
Andre?
That is correct. That is correct. Yep.
Within 48 hours?
Well, if it's only going to go into effect in 48 hours, as our solicitor just said, yes, I would say it'd be immediately if I understood that more. But I thought that our emergency ordinance went into effect as soon as we passed it. So I would say immediately, but if there's any question, it would be.
If you'd like to amend your motion, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we reduce the amount of mopeds rented by each moped operator by down to 25, effective immediately.
That's Andre's amended motion.
That's fine with me.
Martha seconds the amendment to the motion. Further discussion? Sven?
Just to make sure, what I heard solicitor say a few minutes ago was that, I don't know if it was a motion or not, but that there was going to be agenda items written up by the solicitor and the town clerk for the next meeting that included that item. Was that a motion, Ken, or was that an action, or we have not done anything on that yet? Just
Oh,
talk.
that was in reaction to your motion, but you withdrew your motion.
So that has not happened yet.
Right.
I'm just clarifying.
No,
Good. Thank
that's
you.
no longer there. This supersedes
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Further discussion? Counselors? Nothing? Okay. All right. I'll call the motion. All those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
Sven?
Nay.
I vote in the affirmative. Motion carries. It's on the books. Anything else to bring up this time under this item on the agenda?
Yes.
Go ahead, Sven.
I'd like to reduce the hours effective immediate, well, per the emergency ordinance, from return time 8 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Motion made by Sven. Do we have a second? I will second it for discussion. Sven, do you have anything else you want to add about that?
No, I mean, we can discuss the times. I just think based on the emergency, the rescue squad, the medical center, and everybody else, they have clearly indicated afternoon hours have been where the accidents have been most prevalent. I think in addition to reducing the number of mopeds, we can reduce the number of hours, and that will just help further the safety and health of the island. I don't see why we would not do that. You know,
So to be clear, you're talking about the mopeds have to be returned unless they're an overnight or multiple day rental. They have to be returned by 5 p.m. in the evening.
Yes,
Right.
that is correct.
Right.
We
Further
can discuss it whether it's 5 or 6. I'm just trying to reduce down those afternoon accidents.
All right. So you're talking about reducing it from 8 to 5 p.m. Discussion, counselors? Further discussion?
No.
Okay. Motion is to effective immediately reduce the hours of return time for the mopeds for same day rentals from 8 p.m. to 5 p.m. All those in favor, Andre?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
Sven?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative. Councilor Woolley is recusing still. Motion carries 4 to nothing with 1 recusal. Are there any other items you want to bring up?
We are going to have a further discussion, though. We are scheduling another meeting on this for a couple days for discussion for the ordinance.
We can
Can
certainly,
you write a recommendation or say a recommendation, Andre?
I'm sorry.
Can you just, I mean, let's make sure it's clear. I hope the answer is yes, because we talked about it enough, but I know Kathy mentioned a few minutes ago, and then when I withdrew my motion, it seemed to go off the table. So I just want to make sure that it's clear what we're going to do.
I'm not sure that we need to vote, vote on a motion to have a meeting. I think we can just schedule a meeting, right?
We're going to go over the remaining items that have been identified:
Absolutely.
age, location, number of people on moped, things like that.
Okay. Just to add to this, I think we're done here. I just want to add that, these are difficult decisions that I wish none of us had to make, but I made my motion and I cast my vote for the best intentions and a caring heart for my neighbors and my greater community. I want everybody to know, including those operators, that these decisions are never made with malice or ill intent to any personal business or individual. I'm just looking out for the safety of my community right now, the best that I can. I thank the councilors for their time.
thank you, Andre. Any further items on this item? Martha?
Nope.
Okay, I'm sorry, I saw your phone illuminated here. The next item on the agenda would be, there again, another item we've carried on several agendas, discuss an act on possible amendment to emergency ordinance 3 of the town of New Shore adopted June 24, 2020 masks pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up under this one? I will note, and anecdotally, and every time I do this, someone comes back and says they've seen something different, but I definitely think I'm seeing a better compliance downtown, especially driving through town with masks. I'm seeing reduced percentage of those folks not wearing them. I'm not saying there still aren't some there, but I'm seeing a very good, much better compliance than we did 3 weeks ago. So I thank everyone for their efforts. I know we've gotten some help with signage and whatnot from the state, but I think we're really, hopefully we're heading in the right direction and we can keep it moving. And I encourage everybody to keep the positive thoughts and keep making the suggestions and keep wearing those masks whenever you're downtown, as a positive influence on everyone that's visiting. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up?
Ken?
Yes, Martha.
And I would only second what you just said, and it's not so much my observation, but what people have been commenting to me over the past few days. Just visitors, strangers, that it seems to be better compliant. The people seem to be not better because they haven't been here before, but the
Right.
compliance seems to be downtown better, at least,
Right,
or good to them.
Thank you. Okay, moving along, next item on the agenda will be to receive an act on elections update from the town clerk. Millie McGinnis is actually clerking the meeting, leading the meeting, clerking for us this evening. Molly is not with us this evening. I do have an election update printout that's been done. Mail ballots we've processed. Millie, are you on? Did you want me to go ahead and read this, or would you like to do it?
No, you could go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mail ballots, they've processed approximately 100 mail ballot applications for the primary. Voters wishing to track their mail ballots may find information on the Secretary of State's website at vote.ri.gov. Pursuant to a new state law enacted on July 22nd, towns are required to provide a polling place at Town Hall available from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for emergency voting 20 days before each election, weekends accepted. They'll have a full polling place set up at Town Council meeting room from August 19th through September 8th and from October 14th through November 3rd. They'll have a ballot printer, voting booths, a ballot reader printer for the visually impaired, e-poll pads, and a voting machine and lots of paperwork. The room must be secured when not used for voting. Excuse me. To be clear, if there's no pandemic, voters will be checked in at clerk's office and vote in the central hallway. They're segregating voters to the meeting room to minimize the contact, reduce the risk of transmission of COVID-19 to the town hall workforce. And there are several other precautions that will be taken. Excuse me. Does anyone have any questions? Andre, will you start the next item for me, please?
Yeah,
Or can I just-
Go ahead.
Andre,
That's fine.
just to make sure that and maybe Millie can help. I know sort of I don't know how to describe it. What would that be? The northwest corner of the room is going to have all the equipment in it. Is that correct? And so that equipment will be there for the next 2 months, right? Or so?
Yeah, correct. That equipment is there now, Sven, so you can come take a look and see what we have. We do have the polls set up now. Today was our first day of voting. And we will be doing that through the 8th of September. We will then be able to tear that poll down temporarily, and then we'll have to reset that back up in mid-October. So that will be a living poll essentially for about 2 months through the fall.
Thank you very much. And thank you and Molly for all the incredible work. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you. Anybody else? Martha, did you say something? Okay.
I'm fine,
Item number
thank you.
8. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Update, number 8.
7?
Update.
Number 7?
Yep, number 7, discussion of meetings room configuration for in-person meetings. Jim Kern, I see you've popped up in the video feed.
Well, I also had the elections on my list for number 8. So I just wanted to repeat for everybody, the election's already set up in there. It started today, goes for 20 days before the primary, and then 20 days before the regular election. So that's, as Millie said, mid to late October, it gets set up again. You come up, you contact the individuals in the clerk's office, they'll let you in. We've already had a few people vote in there. As usual, they did a great job setting it up. And I think it's set up so that people will feel safe, but also efficient. So the in-person meetings, as I discussed in one of our previous recent meetings, the first part of this, the first decision that the council needs to make is how they want to be seated in the room. Because if you're going to sit at that, this may sound like we're grinding up into the little pieces, but you need to do it because you need to set it up correctly, which is to say, set it up correctly as it relates to safety. You're going to sit 5 at that table, then there will be plexiglass installed in between the 5 members. We also want to consider, and I'm going to come back to this a little bit, we also want to consider the other groups that use that room, as you all know, planning board, zoning, water, wastewater. I spoke with the land use officer, since she deals with so many of those boards. Some of the largest number that we see is 7. Obviously, you guys are 5. We're talking about members of the board. Then there are other people like the town manager and the clerk, or the land use officer and somebody taking minutes, whatever it is. But you're going to have 7 across that curved front desk, whether you want to call it the dais, whatever it is. So that would need to be set up with plexiglass. From that point, and the reason it's important is because we need to commit to that and not make a commitment to that and then have somebody come in and say, well, I'm not really comfortable sitting like that. I think we need to do it a different way. So once you make a commitment, then the rest of the design can take place. And that is putting in the plexiglass, identifying a position for the camera, and then buying the equipment that you need to feed out of the microphone system into a laptop that could be controlled by someone, maybe the chair, maybe not. In some cases it's the chair, some cases it's not. It's fed into bits fed into another laptop so it can be broadcast out. So the presentation, we're all looking at the Hollywood Squares presentation now. The board that's meeting would take up one of these squares. And I think people would also want to try to use the presentation that shows the speaker, which is to say all of the 5 people on the council. So first item, identify how you want to configure, and then you can put together I think Michelle has a pretty good plan for how to accomplish that once that's happened. And then obviously rope Sam in with respect to the physical changes to the building or enhancements to the room, and put a budget together. And I think it can be supported probably out of Sam's budget, out of the facilities manager's budget. One more comment. In my discussions with the land use officer today, she has used this technology in a little bit more enhanced way, and has successfully included on the order of 3 dozen participants, because she has attorneys. They're essentially holding full hearings so that people have to be able to come on. There's a lot of control that's required, because 2 or 3 people are speaking, then they're not speaking, and then 2 or 3 more people are speaking, that kind of thing. Little bit different than maybe 40 people want to show up for one item, which happens to the town council as the previous item. I think we're in the 40s. But I think I would suggest to members of the council to avail themselves to either a recording of one of those meetings or to watch one of those meetings, so that they can get a feel for that and see if that accomplishes some of what the members of the council that are wanting to get to public meetings, if it can accomplish some of that as you work on the more permanent physical configuration change. I think it's not one or the other. It's work towards getting the in-person meeting, but in the meantime, you may want to use some of the, what do you want to call it, techniques that the land use officer is using to provide different kind of interaction with the public. I said that was the last thing, but I'm gonna say one more thing. I think there are people who believe that if we go to public meetings, you'll have a lot of people sitting in that room. You are still constrained to 15 people. You can also say 6 foot between, but it's essentially going to be 6 foot and 15 people in one gathering. And you also have the election equipment in there. Although that will be through late November or mid-November. I think you need to also be clear that if you can get 5 or 10 people in there as an audience, you also need to accommodate other people who are interested, right? That's what the emergency Secretary of State allowance allows you to do. You have to be able to do both. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Jim. Sven Reeson? You're muted, Sven. You're muted, Sven.
I've probably been one of the more vocal wanting to get in-person meetings going. So Jim, I guess there's a question about cost. If there's a one option better for putting the plexiglass in, I just think it'll be better if we can all meet together. I like the land use officers, interim move, but I see we're going to be having these kind of meetings through at least the spring, if not further. So I think the sooner we can start to really build a plan to do in person, the better. I'm fine with plexiglass between and spacing out accordingly. But I'll also, I look forward to hearing everybody's opinion. I just think it's going to be better for the community if we can meet in person and then have people Zoom to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Sven. Just sitting, obviously, I'm the only one sitting in the room at the moment. I'm just looking at the room, and one thing that comes to mind is if we do want to have the capacity to have more than the 5 council members, for instance, 7 members of a board, or have the 5 council members and then room for the town manager, the attorney, and the clerk, we might want to consider changing the layout of the meeting room itself, the front of the meeting room, I know we've had this curved dais for a ever since I've been on the council. But maybe we might want to consider having a straight across setup. Downside is that you won't be face to face. You won't be able to look over and make face contact with necessarily as easily with the other members of the board. The upside is that you can stretch across a larger area. And I'm thinking of moving the clerk's table to the corner over where the closet is. And that would allow more space for folks in the room to spread out. So just a thought, just a thought I had. I don't know if anyone else is thinking the same thing. Andre, go ahead.
I'll let Chris go.
Okay.
I got some taken here.
Chris, go ahead.
This is a voluntary proposal, correct? Meaning if there are people that don't want to, I don't care who it is, the solicitor or whoever might be invited to the meeting, us, we just don't want to go and sit in a room with a bunch of other people. That's okay, correct?
I think it has to be.
Yeah, right. Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. So,
right.
I mean, if there, there's room constraints, then, let's take that in consideration, because I really am perfectly fine sitting here on Zoom. I don't know what the benefit of having all of us in the same room is going to be, but someone can explain that to me. I'm not really sure. Other than the mechanics of the meeting, maybe. I think that's maybe what we're getting at. Sven, maybe you've been a proponent of this. Is it the mechanics or how the meeting is run that is the benefit? That's a question, actually.
Sven, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a number of things, Chris, and everybody. I think it's both the meeting mechanics. I think it's the interactions. I think I truly believe one acts differently when we're around each other versus through Zoom. I think that also it's very helpful for when people are Zooming in to see as many counselors as can be there talking together and be able to see that as a council and making decisions as a council. I did talk to Jim about it earlier. I think there would probably be a large screen, so we would see whoever's speaking on the Zoom. They would be on a big screen. The people in the audience would see us as a council together. And I think that for many months, rather than seeing individual squares, I believe there's a benefit. So yes, both from a technical and operational part of the meeting, but also from a coordination and communication point.
Chris, do you have a rebuttal?
No.
Okay.
Mine's a point of view.
Andre?
I'll leave it at that. I mean, I was basically just gonna say, I was just gonna thank Jim for his work on this. We have all in the past, myself included, and Martha and Sven have talked how we'd like to get back into town hall. I think the to get there, I don't think it's any issues to be overcome. I mean, how are we going to be seated? I mean, every seat's a hot seat these days, so that won't be a problem. We normally get 4 or 5 people in our meeting, so 15 is just going to be dandy with me. And plexiglass between Ken and Sven, it's all good. So thank you, Jim, for the work you've done on this. I'm hoping we can actually get back to town hall and get this implemented. But I also, and Ken, maybe you can speak to this. Jim, I don't think you'll be here when this is implemented. I heard some news today, something about Mary Ann Cummings Monday to start work.
That's
could you, I mean, maybe this ain't the right time, but it is town hall projects, but could you just give us an update on that really quick?
Sure. Mary Ann Crawford will be starting Monday.
And Jim Kern will be sticking around for a little while or coming back and forth. And
Jim, go ahead.
So my intention is to I'm out here tomorrow. I may come back out Friday. And my intention is to come out midweek next week to help get Mary Ann situated into a super easy job to drop right into. We don't have anything going on.
Right.
Andre, thank you for pointing that out.
Well, just wondering when the den mother's going to come. That's all.
If I could get back to the topic, and it's ironic that I just had to leave the room with a coughing fit because I do have, as everybody knows, I have allergies and other complications. None of it's involving COVID, but and I also have hearing aids. And I know that when we've been together in the past for other issues with masks on, it makes it very difficult for me to understand some of the speech patterns. So I think this is all well and good to try and get us all in the same room, but if we do, we're going to have to do it in such a way that either the microphones are working really well or people are very, very energetic about their speech patterns and perhaps finding a mask that might not mute the voices as much as some of them do. So that's the only problem I might have with it.
I could yell for you if you want, Ken.
Oh, you have a nice loud voice, Chris. I'm not sure that you're the problem. Thank you, though. I appreciate the effort. But like I said, that is one problem I would have, and obviously I'd have to work through it personally, and also I'd look for cooperation of my fellow counselors to try and do whatever's necessary to make things more audible. Jim Kern?
Real quick, without repeating what I did, but there are other communities. Most communities are still using Zoom at the town council, city council level. You know, the state legislature is using plexiglass around each desk. But I want to kind of emphasize that you want to be comfortable with what you're doing. I don't think this is a build as you go kind of a thing. I think it's kind of figure out, okay, can we do this or can we not do this? Because you don't want, I don't need to tell anybody, we have a limited budget. This is not something that was budgeted, clearly. So we want, as I said, you want to make a commitment to something that you're going to use and that, you know, whoever it is going to be comfortable, as Chris said. If people are not going to be comfortable, we're not, my recommendation would be to do as well as you can with Zoom until we get to the point where you can get people back in that room in what we might describe as the normal way.
Sven Rissen?
Two things. One, Ken, I think, at least from all my discussions, we would be using the microphones and the microphones would be tapped into Zoom. So I'm hoping that would help the hearing issues. Secondly, Jim, I think we would all, I believe we would all look for a budget. And if Sam comes up and says, this is I'm making a number up, you know, a large number budget, I'm not sure anybody would get very excited about that. So, you know, I think we need to see what the estimate is. And if it's a couple of $100, that's one thing. If it's a couple of many thousands, that's a whole nother, you know. So I think the question really is having somebody figure out the microphones, figure out the monitors, the camera, the setup, the installation, plexiglass, and what does that cost? What does it look like? And then come back. Do you agree? Or that was my thinking, at least.
But if I could, that's assuming that the thing I described is acceptable to the members of the council.
And I'm hearing it is. Maybe I'm not hearing right.
Yeah, I mean, you have enough of an indication to go forward and see what the estimate is and see what the cost would be. And then what Sven is saying is we come back and if you're saying it's $200,000 to set it up for, you know, a handful of meetings, and we're not going to do it.
Right. I wasn't so much intending to emphasize the budget as much as the comfort of you all with that arrangement. There are other arrangements.
Right.
That's what I meant. You may want to go with a different arrangement. And yeah, it may be a budget consideration at some point, but I don't think budget needs to drive it. I think you need to, I mean, within reason, obviously. That's one of the ways. It's among the most popular ways that town councils are doing it. because you're together so people can see you, which is kind of the point. You're not all spread out and we're back into this goofy room kind of scenario that isn't accomplishing what you want. So, but you have to be comfortable with that. And I think they can, Sam and others can start working on that budget.
Okay. I think obviously one thing that needs to be built into it, as it is in all our businesses these days, is a health check procedure during meeting day, just like we do with our businesses. And if someone's feeling ill, just as the Department of Health recommends, if you're feeling ill, don't come to the meeting in person, stay home. So simple as that. And then temperatures and everything else, all the other guidelines. But I think that should be built into it as part and parcel to it. Any other comments or questions about this at the moment? Thank you, Jim. Anything else? Hearing none, next item on the agenda is an update and status report from the town manager on ongoing projects.
So I concentrated on the handful that Sven had identified. I do want to say that Sam and I are meeting tomorrow to update again, kind of finally, the what we might refer to as the capital projects, and had a second tab. You will recall it. I think Ed Roberge put it together as he was leaving. One tab is capital projects. One tab is individual contracts. Those are the ones that go out to bid. Obviously, the vast majority of those have turned over at the end of the last fiscal year. There's a handful that have not. Primary among them is the transfer station. The purpose of that obviously is to set it up for Mary Ann, and obviously we'll share that with the council subsequent to Sam and I updating it. That includes a number of things that are completed. The west side sidewalk, street sidewalk, the facade on the school, things like that, and then some that are still pending. And the first one of those I'll talk about tonight is Andy's Way. The engineer, the latest today is that the engineer is working to complete a plan, and that plan is expected within the next 2 weeks. This is subsequent to the grant that was acquired, and number of things that have gone on over some number of years. So Mr. George is working on that. We expect a plan within the next 2 weeks. Number three, Sven had identified a notification we got from Verizon, really a capital project necessarily, but just to kind of update the council on a notification we got from Verizon that they would no longer have a year-round technician living on the island, a technician living on the island year-round. I've spoken with their regional representative. Shirlene has a number of times too, but I spoke with her yesterday or the day before, went over kind of what the plan would be. Anytime they anticipate a storm or any other circumstance where they would have to ramp up, they'd have people out here ahead of time. Anytime they're coming out to do, for example, they're avoiding it right now because of the summer, but when they have to come out and do a bunch of switchovers, they would stay over. Obviously, advantageous for them to come out in the fall or the early winter financially in terms of putting people up. So, you know, she schedules that accordingly. And they have she reminded me to remind everybody, they have a 1-800 number. You can say, well, how am I going to call them if my phone is out? Generally, we have access to some kind of cell phone. You know, what's gone on in the past here, I understand, has been very local in terms of being able to go over to the person's house or whatever it is. She just reminded people, put a call ticket in through the 1-800 number, or if it's a website that you can get to, use that, and they'll respond as they would normally. This is a business decision they made. It had to do with personnel decisions that are not our business, but they are, as she said, committed to providing good service to the people on Block Island. And lastly, this, I think it was originally called the Sea to Shore Cable Reburial. We've called it a lot of other things, National Grid, Orsted. This is the cable that unburied, that needs to be reburied. We've been working on it for, well, we've really been working on it since April after we got an appraisal. I thought we might, I think it's probably true that the language that we have been finalizing the last few days with the attorneys, I think it's probably true right now as I speak that it's completed, but I can't say that until I see all the documents and line it up so that I think Ken does most of the signing on behalf of the town. The attorney.
Excuse me, Jim, I can speak to that.
Okay.
We did finalize it today. The last bit that we were arguing about, National Grid has agreed to. It had to do with indemnification for the town for damages. They did agree to that, so everything has been finalized.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yep.
That's up to the minute. A lot of work on behalf of the town by Kathy, Amy, Michelle, and maybe most of all Sam, going back some number of years in his case. But I don't know. I guess I would just say that that's one of those things that's harder than it seems like it should be, or that you would think from the outside. So thanks for all the people that did that. And also maybe not the most rewarding work, because we're working on something that should have, that was not done as it should have been the first time. So when we're done with it, there's not a, we don't have a nice new building standing there, but as I think the people in town know, there's a considerable monetary compensation to the town on the order of $560,000 to $600,000. There's been some changes to the square footage of the easements to the town for providing that space for those two companies to do that project, and we'll be able to use that to engineer a significant interim solution for when we lose connectivity to the mainland. We'll have a point-to-point connectivity solution that will allow us to continue with our critical assets, the school, town hall, the network as we call it, the CAI network, and then potentially eventually use that for the full island-wide network that is in the works, that was voted at the financial town meeting. So those are the four big ones. As I said, a couple more documents. The other thing I was going to do was personnel, but given the way we posted the agenda, I don't think that's appropriate under the agenda item, so I'm going to stop there. We do have a number of changes. We spoke about Karen earlier. We've had another retirement in that office. We've had a resignation in the building office. We're also close to appointing a residential inspector. And so I think it never necessarily ideal to be doing that right at the end of a tenure for a town manager, but I think it's completely inappropriate, with a couple of exceptions here, to leave that to the next group, to the next person, particularly since some of these have waited since before my tenure. One of them has, to be fair. So expect to close those out, a number of them tomorrow, and leave some of them so that the new people can participate, not so much the new town manager, but the new residential inspector, for example, participate in the next hiring. And I'll stop there.
Thank you, Jim. Next item on the agenda would be correspondence. Correspondence report from interim town manager concerning the Cherry Hill Lane solar installation.
So I'm ready when you are.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
I don't know the extent to which the board wants me to go through this. I've written up a memo identifying the original complaint from Mr. Warfel regarding the Cherry Hill Lane Solar Initiative, described my interactions, my conversation with him and my conversation with the chairperson of the housing board, and the other documents that I reviewed, including the Block Island Utility District response to a similar complaint. And then I provided some background for the project, the decisions that were made by the board, the interaction or the involvement of the anonymous donor that donated the funds through the use of a nonprofit to provide solar and solar power, ultimately for the 5 people who will occupy and own those homes. And then I provided conclusions regarding each of the assertions that Mr. Warfel made about the project as it was executed. This was in response to the council referring it to me for investigation, and so this is the memo that summarizes that investigation.
Council have any questions? Sven Reason?
Jim, when we talked about this seemingly years ago or decades ago, I know it was March or whenever it was, or February. One of the things that I had mentioned at that time was, maybe we should ask, I don't know whether it's planning or what group, to think through, how do we look at sort of major donations, and if major donations are made for whatever purposes, for example, I'm going to give flooring to housing projects or something like that, should there be some form of announcement or some form of invitation? And I don't think we should solve it now, but I, maybe with the new town manager, we can put it on the docket and just think through, is there a benefit? Is there a way to at least allow for the response or participation by an island business? Now, obviously, in this case, it's all free, so I'm not sure that anybody could have ever matched that. But I don't know how those donations are going to work in the future. And I do think that Block Island does pride itself on always trying to help Block Island. We've seen this many times discussed. So maybe we can consider that, or as you talk to the new town manager, just something to start to think through and putting in the bug in the air as to major donations towards building projects or even just to the town. Just a thought.
Jim Kern?
So I'm of 2 minds on that. One is speaking as a public administrator, and when I speak with that mind, I have a lot of thoughts that Sven has. So I'll say it that way. I think he made it as a suggestion / question, and I think it's a solid suggestion / question, which is, does it make sense to involve some kind of representative, a board that's representative of the community to vet, and that's and it has to have some reason to do it. Otherwise, it's people are being asked to do something that they feel like doesn't have any meaning. So you would be vetting it in some way, and that I use that to transition to the second half of this, which is that in my experience, I'm not talking about this project, I'm not talking about Block Island. but in my experience, speaking to people who are willing to donate, and I think any of you who have been involved in government for some period of time probably have had similar conversations. Oftentimes, not always, maybe not even a majority, but oftentimes they are very sensitive to having their donation be involved in some kind of government process. And I qualified that a lot of different ways. Maybe not a majority, not talking about Black Island, not talking about this project, just talking about people say, I'm willing to donate, but those guys aren't going to tell me how I'm going to do it. And those guys aren't going to tell me when I'm going to do it. And I don't really like that guy. And I don't like the guy on this board. And I don't like this guy. So that's the other side of it. You want to make sure you don't diminish. And I understand, and I know all of you that have been involved in government know that you don't want to diminish the incentive or the motivation for people to donate. It's one of the things we deal with in this business. And there's a number of reasons why it's a good idea to have that group vet, and then there's the other side.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
Can I make an observation?
Chris, hold on. I see your hand up. Yeah, Chris Warfel.
Right. Thank you for recognizing me.
Sure.
I wanted to say a couple of things. The anonymous donator, Don McCluskey, he could have done this project along with Tony Pappas in a way that would have still achieved his results that he wanted to do, which supposedly was to bring more renewable energy to Block Island than we are currently seeing. So, but he tied it to a lot of things, including a hand-picked installer. So it truly was not a gift. If it was a gift, he could have done this in another way, and I would have never raised any issues. I also have to note that the council gave this task to the interim town manager on May 25th, and I believe I raised this issue sometime in February of this year. I have no chance for reviewing Mr. Kern's work and giving feedback to it before he leaves, and I don't think that's right. I think, I just want to say, if you allow what happened with Don McCluskey and Tony Pappas to go forward in the future, there's really no limit then to how people can put money into what's supposedly a gift and circumvent town policy, town planning documents, etc., because they're just going to call it a gift. This is extremely dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warfel. Any further comments from the council or questions?
No, I can.
Andre, go ahead.
Jim, thank you for the work you've done on this. And Chris, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Jim, go ahead.
One last comment. No, I would have preferred that it didn't take as long as it did. But I will say that we have had other priorities that have competed with this for attention, and some of them have been rather critical. So, and my obligation is to respond to the council. That's who asked me to investigate. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
Well,
Chris, one more comment.
Okay.
Hold on, Chris. I need to unmute. It's do star 6, Chris.
Are you referring to me, Ken, Chris Warfel, or to Chris Woolley?
Oh, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is your hand still up?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Now it's down. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. You bet.
Next item on the agenda is minutes.
Ken,
Martha.
Ken, there is one troubling thing here, and this is I appreciate the work that was done here. I think there were some representations made that weren't exactly accurate. I've had some experience dealing with donor advised gifts from Rhode Island Foundation. And I would say that I would only say that we may have anonymous gifts that a lot of people know who it is. It is still unconscionable to put this out in the public. And I know Chris Warfel is upset. I understand that. But he thinks there has been a wrong committed. And if there had been a wrong committed, his wrong isn't negated.
Thank you, Martha. Moving along, next item on the agenda is minutes. We have several minutes need to be approved. I hope everyone's had a chance to review them. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 4th, 2019.
And may I just have a quick comment?
Go ahead.
They weren't on clerk base, and I did go to town hall to get my packet today, but got caught to talking with everybody I haven't seen in a while and left it there. So I don't actually have them. I don't want to hold this up. So I'm just going to abstain from these if you guys want to move forward. But like I said, I don't have any of them in front of me, and I apologize for that. But if you want to move forward, I'll abstain because, like I said, I just don't know what I'm voting on right now, and I apologize.
Okay, thank you, Andre.
Ken,
Henderson?
if we're going to be meeting on Monday, can we just move this to Monday? I mean, unless there's urgency to get them done. Is there a reason not to?
I mean, they're already a year old. What's the rush?
Sort of where I'm at.
Right.
I don't have them either, so.
Okay. Well, no, we can certainly,
Whenever.
I'll take back my motion. It wasn't seconded anyway, so. They are printed out in the boxes in the town council office, and they're also available previously in a couple of different emails from Molly. If you need me, I can text you the dates or whatever, the ones that we had in the packet tonight to try to approve, so you can make sure you're looking at the right ones.
Thank you.
Yep, we'll do that. All right, next item on the agenda is to receive and act on an update from the town solicitor concerning Island Entertainment, Inc., doing business as Spring House Hotel, Shoreham, Inc., doing business as Ballard's Inn, Island Pond, Inc., doing business as Mahogany Shoals, Coastal Resorts International, Inc., doing business as National Hotel, and Aldo's Place, Inc., doing business as Aldo's Restaurant Pizzeria versus the town of New Shoreham. This item may be discussed in closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42465A2. Two sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions containing collective bargaining or litigation. Councilor Marola, is there anything we can announce about this in open session before we go into closed session?
Interrupt, please.
Chris, go ahead.
I'll recuse at this time because this is pertaining to outdoor entertainment licenses.
Right. Okay.
I hold one.
Thank you. Councilor Marola?
Yes, what I can say was the case was argued on Monday, and the motion for a temporary restraining order was denied.
Okay. Sven, do you have your hand up?
No, it depends if we're going to go into closed session, but go ahead.
Okay. Steve Flippy, you have a question?
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to give some feedback real quick on this agenda item. Number one, I know it's a long night, so I'm going to try and make it as quick as possible. Last Monday on VJ Day, I think that's a topic that needs to be discussed. There was a long line at the ferry with Ballards, and I take responsibility for that. Going forward on the holiday weekends, I need to communicate better with Interstate Navigation and work on the lines and people going from Ballards to the ferry. And I talked to Bill McComb today, and I think we're on the same page where that won't happen again. Number two, we'd like to have outdoor entertainment. You know, if we can work something out, start at 2 o'clock. If we can start at 2 o'clock at Ballards, then it's really going to help us keep everyone outside. It's going to help us get everyone on the 6 o'clock boat where they won't linger. And it's really, really going to help us stop the spread of the virus on the island. And that's really all I have to say. I know it's a long night for you. I want to thank you again. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
Steve, the voice on my end anyway was a little bit vague. What did you say about timing?
If we can start our music at 2:00 going forward, then we can get everyone on the 6:00 boat. We can keep everyone outside, and it would really be a big help going forward for the rest of the summer.
All right, thank you. All right, I think we need to go into closed session. I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 4246(5)(a)(2).
Second.
Jim Kern, you have a question?
I just wanted, before we go into closed session, Ken, given that this is my last meeting with the council, I just wanted to thank the council, thank the staff, the other elected officials, everybody who's helped me, and wish everybody the best.
I'm sorry, Jim. Yeah, I apologize for not realizing that in the heat of the battle here. And if it is our last meeting together, we certainly appreciate your efforts that you've done for us, standing in and filling in for us, and as best as anyone could have. And we look forward to seeing you as a visitor in the future. Sven Riesem.
Yeah, that's all I was just going to reiterate, Ken. Thank you. Jim, we can't thank you enough. Not easy shoes to fill in general, was impossible in a COVID world. And your work with the budget, your work with the negotiations with labor, your work with negotiations, you and Sam with National Grid, helping communicate, etc. Really appreciate it and thank you. And if there's anything we can do to help you, we appreciate all your help.
Yeah, especially with the negotiations that were going on, Jim. Obviously, you're a consummate professional, and we really, I think the town will serve very well by you being there. Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Seconded by Sven. All those in favor? Andre?
Aye.
Sven? Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative. Just so everyone knows, we'll be going to closed session, and if you want to stand by, if you're in open session, stand by. We will be coming out of closed session and making either a vote or an announcement at that point. But so you can stand by, and we'll be coming out as soon as we can. I know it's a late night. So thank you, everyone, if you're leaving us now, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going off. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. All right.
Don't forget to watch the convention tonight.
Okay, we'll see you over there.
Am I here?
Yep. Yes, you are, Martha.
Yes, Martha.
Thank you.
What's happening on my screen?
Mhm. Can I, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of that.
Okay, thank you.
Better?
Now it is,
But
sort of.
Andre, you're muted right now.
Okay, I knew that.
Okay.
I'm kind of traveling around my house with my laptop.
Okay.
I just, my kid's on his way out. We're leaving on
That's
the
all right. Go
8th.
ahead and mute. That's fine.
Feels like it's midnight.
It's 2 hours minus midnight.
Sun's going to bed earlier. I can feel it already.
Waiting for Sven.
Yep.
All right.
Amy, you want to make me a co-host?
Sven has said he's waiting in the meeting ending 4096, but I think that's the wrong one.
Yeah, I'll send him the one he's supposed to be in.
Looking for the open meeting, aren't you? That's 4096.
Yeah. I don't see him.
He's probably in the wrong one.
Yeah, I'm just sending him the correct one right now.
Thank you. Hey, we all set with housing for the troopers for the weekend.
We're recording. I don't know if you want that information on.
This is a yes or no.
What was the question?
Are we all set with housing for the troopers for the weekend?
We're all set in terms of it's being worked on.
Okay, thanks.
Just waiting for everybody to join back up. Especially the council members.
Here's Sven.
All set, Ken.
It was the same code.
There you go. Andre, you with us again?
I am.
Great. Okay. All right. We're back in open session. And it's still Wednesday, August 19th. I'd like to make an announcement that there was a vote made in closed session. The vote was 4-0. Councilor Willie was recusing, but it was 4-0 affirmative. And the vote was made to direct the town solicitor to accept the settlement proposal that outdoor entertainment licenses be reinstated with limitations that outdoor entertainment can only start at 5 o'clock and run till 9 o'clock and be limited to 2 performers for the venue. That motion was carried and it will go into effect as soon as the town solicitor finishes that negotiation. Nothing further. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Seconded by Andre. All those in favor, Andre?
aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
I vote in the affirmative also. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for staying with us and joining us, and have a good evening. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.